Hello, beta. Good afternoon, everyone. So today we will start by discussing ISI PEB 2004 question paper. Let's try to understand this thing. So first question that we have is the following. It says a consumer consumes only two goods, X and Y, and her utility function is given to you as X plus Y. The budget line is given to you as PX plus Y is equal to 10. So try to understand this thing. So the utility function is X plus Y. That means it represents substitute goods, right? And when I talk about the MRS is MUX by MUY. So in this case, 1 by 1, that means 1. And when it tells you that the budget line is P into X plus Y equal to 10, so the slope is going to be P by 1. And P is given to you as half. So half by 1, that means 0.5. Now, clearly, we can go ahead and see that the MRS is more than PX by PY, in which case you will consume only good X, right? So therefore, your X consumption will be M by PX, right? In this case, in this particular case, your consumption of good X will become income is income given to you? Income is given to you as 10 and price of good X is given to you as half. So 10 by half, that means it will be 20. So you will be consuming 20 units. Okay. Now it says what is going to be absolute own price elasticity of good X. So now you try to see from here, beta, I have got X is equal to M by PX, right? Now there are two ways to find out the absolute price elasticity. The first technique can be very simple. So if I have X is equal to M by PX, that means X into PX is equal to M. So that means my total expenditure will always be equal to my income. So my total expenditure will always be fixed. So according to expenditure method, whether price will increase or decrease, I will always be spending the same amount on good X. And therefore, I can say that it will be unit elastic, right? The other thing that you can go ahead and you can do is, so you have got that your equilibrium X star is M by PX. So I will find dx by dp, and this is going to be minus M by PX square, right? And then I can just use the formula of elasticity, which says it is going to be X by P, which says it is going to be P by X into dx by dp. So it is going to be P by X into M by P whole square, right? So this is going to be minus M by, so this one P and P can cancel. So minus M by X into P, right? Now from our analysis, what we have seen here is that even if you try to put in the values, the X that you have got in this case is 20. So you can go ahead and put X as 20, P is half and income is 10. So you will get the answer as minus 1. So in absolute terms, it is going to be 1. So using either approach, we know that the price elasticity of this good in this case, it is going to be 1. So the correct answer is C. Okay, come to the next question. It says a consumer consumes only two goods, X and Y, and the price of good X in the local market is given to you as P. So this is a local market, and here the price is given to me as P, and in the distant market, it is given to me as Q, where P is greater than Q. So what you can go ahead and do now, you can take some numbers. It always helps, right? So you can take, if you find things difficult, you can take, say, price in the local market as 10 and price in the distant market as, say, 5. Now it says that if you have to go to the distant market, you have to incur some fixed cost. And let's say that the fixed cost that you have to incur is C. And there is another good that you want to consume, which is good Y, and the price of good Y is 1 in both the markets. So whether I buy from local or distant, price of good Y is 1 only. The income of the consumer is given to you as I, and I is given greater than C. Let X not be the equilibrium consumption of good X if the consumer has the smooth downward sloping and convex indifference curve there. So try to understand this thing. Now, if I just go ahead and I take this to be my local market, right? and I draw a budget line in the local market, then budget line will be price of good X into the quantity of X, price of good Y into the quantity of good Y equal to income of the consumer. So if I were to go ahead and I were to plot this thing, I can take X here, I can take Y here. So when I will put X as 0, then I will get Y as I. And when I will put Y as 0, then I will get X as I by P. And I can just join this and this will be my budget line. And since this tells me that I have smooth downward sloping and convex ICs, so maybe I will just draw an indifference curve here and I will get this as my X naught and Y naught, which is my equilibrium demand, right? Okay. Now, if I just talk about the distant market, then in the distant market, what we will go ahead and we will see is that the price of good X is Q into X plus price of good Y into Y. And in this case, I have to go ahead and I have to incur a fixed cost of C. So this is actually ISI is very intelligent, I should say. This is a very simple question which can be considered like what you have always studied in variant as an example of lump sum versus proportionate tax. So whenever we have proportional tax or whenever we have per unit tax, it increases the price of the good. And whenever we have lump sum tax, in this case, it's like a cost that you have to bear to travel, it decreases your income, right? It decreases your income. Okay, so you can go ahead and compare it with what you have always studied in variant. That, okay, consider a case where the initial price of good is 4 rupees, price of good Y is 1 rupee. And then I tell you that consider two cases. In case one, I put a tax rate of something. And in case two, I go ahead and I put a lump sum tax of this. Then in which condition would the consumer be better off? We have done such things in class, right? In a way, this is very similar to that. In one case, I'm increasing the price of the good. In other case, I'm putting the price as a lower one, but I'm saying that there is some lump sum cost that you have to bear for traveling, right? Okay. So in this case, we can say ultimately that because I have to bear that cost to go to the distant market, it is going to lower my my income, right? So my net income will be I minus C. You could have gone ahead and written it like this also, that I'm buying per unit of good X at this. But whenever I will go ahead and buy this per unit, then in that case, I will be incurring some cost C to buy each unit of good X. So I am going to go ahead and I am going to add the C in my expenditure. The left-hand side shows the expenditure, the right-hand side shows the income. So my expenditure is going to increase by C because for whatever unit I buy, whether I buy 1 unit or 10 units, I have to travel and that C is the cost I have incurred. Plus price of good Y into unit of good Y is equal to income of the consumer denoted by I. So this also kind of goes ahead and gives you the same thing, that Q X plus Y is equal to Y minus C. So if I were to go ahead and I were to plot this thing, I can take X here and I can take Y here. So my Y will be I minus C and my X is going to be I minus C by Q. And I will go ahead and I will get some equilibrium X naught, Y naught here. X naught and Y naught. This will be some equilibrium. Now notice that these two budget lines are very, very different. This has an intercept I minus C. This has an intercept I. This has an intercept I by P and this has an intercept I minus C by Q. Now, the question goes ahead and says that, you need to focus on this condition, whether this condition holds or it does not hold. And if I go ahead and I look into this condition for once, I'm just creating some space here. So if I just go ahead and I look into this condition goes ahead and says that at equilibrium, Q naught represents the equilibrium consumption of good X. So at equilibrium, P minus Q into X naught should be equal to C. So P X naught plus Q minus Q X naught is equal to C. So P X naught is equal to Q X naught plus C, right? So if you notice what the question is actually asking, that whatever equilibrium bundle you buy, This is the equilibrium bundle you have purchased from, this is your equilibrium consumption of good X that you have purchased from the local market. And this is the equilibrium bundle that you have purchased from the distant market. And in a way, it is asking that whether the expenditure that you will be incurring on the equilibrium bundle, because when you travel, you are incurring this as the expenditure. So it is asking that the expenditure that you will be incurring when you will be buying good X from the local market and the expenditure you will be incurring when you will be buying good X from the distant market, is it the same or not? Now, when you read such kind of questions, you need to interpret a lot of things in the background. So one thing that you should be interpreting in the background is the following. You need to go ahead and see कि अच्छा ठीक है, अगर मैं local market की बात करती हूँ, so at equilibrium, suppose मेरा bundle x naught y naught है, so it will be px naught plus y naught is equal to I. And if I talk about distant market, it is going to be qx naught plus y naught is equal to I minus c, or plus c is equal to I. Now, if I want this condition to hold true, that means that this part and this part are the same, then this is only possible if I am consuming the same level of good, I am spending the same amount on good Y in the two market. तभी तो मैं दोनों पे, तभी तो मैं ये condition को equal कर पाऊंगी. Only then I will be able to make the condition equal. So the expenditure on good X is the same. तो अगर मैं यहाँ से Q naught plus C का value निकालूं, I will get I minus Y naught, right? And from here, if I find out P X naught, here also I will get I minus Y naught. So the two will be equal to each other only if this Y naught is equal in the two situation. So ideally, in a way, अगर मैं थोड़ा ध्यान से सोचूं, in a way, the question is asking that will you be demanding the same quantity of good Y at equilibrium? क्या आप good Y का quantity same consume करोगे equilibrium पे? Will you be demanding the same amount of good Y at equilibrium or not? वो indirectly ये पूछ रहा है. Am I making sense? Okay. Now just see here. But I have got, I hope this is not too messy for you. Let me just remove this part. I have got these two budget lines with me. Now I can have different cases in this case. So the first case that I am taking is that if I superimpose one budget line on the other, then this budget line lies exactly below the other budget line. So ऐसा कुछ हो गया that this is my distinct market budget line. This is my local market budget line. और local market budget line यहाँ पे है I by P and I. Of course, I can see that this is I and this is I minus C. So y-axis is sorted. That here I will be having I minus C, and x-axis पे here I have I minus C by Q. So I am thinking that if I just bring the two markets together in the same diagram, then case one can be where the local market budget line will lie exactly below, will lie exactly above the distinct market budget line. Of course, there is a condition behind it, and the condition is that I want that this should be lower than this. Only then this will happen. So this will hold true. This will hold true if I have I minus C by Q lower than I by P, and this will hold true when IP minus CP will be lower than IQ. So IP minus IQ will be lower than CP. So IP minus Q will be lower than CP. And this will happen when I'm just dividing it, Q by P will be lower than C. So if this condition holds true, then this will be like this. You need to take cases, right? So let me give you an example in this case. So let's say that the price of the good in the distinct market is 8 rupees. The price of the good in the local market is more, 10 rupees. And my income is also 10. So I get 10, 1 minus 8 by 10 less than C, and 10, 1 minus 0.8 less than C. So 0.2 into 10, that means 2 less than C. So if the cost of traveling is more than 2, if the cost of traveling is more than 2, then I will notice that this budget line will lie exactly below the other budget line. Now, in this case, you just need to go ahead and you need to notice. So just try to go ahead and see that if my initial equilibrium is here, it is at point E. If my initial equilibrium, I mean, this is the distinct market. If my distinct market equilibrium is at point C, I will be on a low, I will be on a higher budget line clearly. There is no reason why I will be going ahead and I will be on a lower budget line. Are you understanding? There is no reason why I will be spending my money on the distinct market when I can be on a higher indifference curve using my local market prices, when I can buy from the local market, right? So as you can go ahead and clearly see that ideally here, I will be attaining an equilibrium in such a way that I will always be on the higher market. I will always be going ahead and I will be on this budget line, right? So using revealed preference concept also, it's not even required here. You clearly know that you will be somewhere on the higher budget line. And if you will be on a higher budget line, you would be given both the goods are good goods. You will want to consume more of both the goods, right? So there is no reason why you will be spending all your money because both the goods are good goods. So there is no reason why you will be spending all your money on good X and not increasing the consumption of good Y. There is no reason why as to why you will be going from here to here and not changing the consumption of good Y. Additionally, when you go from this budget line to this budget line, rather what happens is that good X is becoming expensive because you're buying from the local market. So even the substitution effect should go ahead and tell you to consume more of good Y. So there is no reason why when you will stick to the same consumption of good Y when you shift from distinct to the local market. And if anything, you should be consuming more of good Y also. You should be spending more money on good Y also. So using that, it is clear that I will not be going ahead and spending the same amount of money on good Y in the two markets, right? Now, this is case one. But what if the two markets intersect? So when I go ahead and I just take these two budget lines and I just kind of bring them together, what if I get something like this? This is my I, this is I by P. And what if I get something like this, right? And I have, of course, I minus C here, which has to be lower than I. But what if I get this as I minus C by Q? This was the point of intersection we had in this case. So what if this happens? Then you have to understand that suppose this is my initial budget line, right? And you need to understand that this is my new budget line. So there is only one point where I will be going ahead and I will be consuming the same amount of good Y in two cases. That is going to happen here. Only in this situation, I will be consuming the same equilibrium amount of good Y in both the markets. But if I do that, then I will be violating the rule of well-defined preferences, because if I were to go ahead and draw an IC which is tangent to this budget line, that IC cannot be tangent to this budget line also at this point when the two budget lines are intersecting each other. Either it will be tangent to this budget line or this, but it won't be tangent to both the budget lines. And therefore, getting the same consumption of good Y in two cases when the two budget lines intersect is only possible had I had the case where my indifference curve was rather a kink. Then when the two budget lines intersect, I would have ended up getting the same amount of good Y, which the question is asking indirectly that do you consume the same amount of good Y at the equilibrium in the two budget lines, right? So ideally, I must have been here, say, right? Suppose I would have been here. Suppose I am consuming this at equilibrium. So if I consume this amount at equilibrium, suppose this is where I attain equilibrium in the distinct market, then according to revealed preference theory, I cannot be anywhere on this budget line once I shift myself to the local market. So if I were to shift myself to the local market, I would have been somewhere here. So I would have shifted the amount of good Y that I would have consumed, right? On the other hand, suppose I tell you that no. Initially, my equilibrium was somewhere here in the distinct market, right? Again, through revealed preference theory, I cannot be anywhere here. And therefore, I must be in this region and I must go ahead and I must change the amount of good Y also that I consume. So ideally, it will never ever be the case that in the two markets, you will be consuming the same amount of good Y and therefore the same amount of good X. So we can go ahead and say that B is true. That means that this condition will never hold. Okay, beta. Thank you.